It's the round of upsets here for APAC South Playday number 4. Still one match remaining. 7th Heaven versus Knights. And I've got to say, if you are Knights, I'd be a little bit wary right now because it is the night of the underdogs, Raven. 7th Heaven, are they going to give us one final surprise?
Look, they might just do. They've been in some semi-decent form in the season so far. Just been a little bit inconsistent. But after the way that tonight's panned out, look, I wouldn't put it past another upset potentially happening here. You never know.
It's a full moon out tonight, I feel. There has been some crazy things happening on Clubhouse. That order game against Elevate and then into the QC Giants matchup. That was just, I mean, some stuff that I haven't seen in my time casting, and it certainly kept us all entertained tonight. And I honestly, leaning into 7th Heaven, this matchup, I just think that Knights, they've been performing really well, but there's something about 7th Heaven that continues to keep people on their toes, and I still think that many are sleeping on what they're able to achieve here. And obviously the big thing to note right now is Spirited is in fact replacing or stepping in for, whatever you'd like to say, Sino, who hasn't been performing great in APAC South. So maybe some fresh blood might do him the trick. Yeah,
maybe. Sino, unfortunately, the second lowest rated player in APAC South. So a chance for Spirited to come in and hopefully give 7th Heaven a bit of a boost. You would hope so. They're going to need it as well because they're going up against a very formidable opponent. It's Knights, who have an opportunity to take sole top spot with a win here to close out Playday 4. They would go above Elevate. Not only that, Raven, they would actually be above the majority of teams by like a good 5 points or so.
Yeah, really good opportunity here for the Knights. They are certainly hunting to be outright in top spot, and they have been having a cracker of an APAC South season so far. Big win against QConfirm, I think, is one of their most notable victories, but they've had some players firing. You know, Sage is the second highest player in the league for cost stat, which is a very important stat. You know, that is basically dictating how effective you are in every round. It's rating at 77%. Dino also having a big stage so far, so certainly those two players are ones to keep your eye on.
Raven?
Raven, my goodness. We're gonna go back to, I know you said something about airtime before, but I didn't realize you were gonna cut me off even more so. Sage definitely for me has just been such an instrumental player on this roster in the past 2-3 weeks. But also since he's been picked up, I said this at the start of this year, he was kind of seen as like what can he achieve on this roster? Like, how good is he going to be? And I think he's been phenomenal for the Knights, and he's definitely one of those players that steps up when he needs to. So it's a strong roster to go up against in APAC South. There's no doubt about it.
Certainly going to be a tough time for 7th Heaven. Knights looking good. It's a strong roster. They're definitely taking APAC seriously, that's for sure. They're looking like one of the best teams, and maybe with a win tonight, they could be the best team in APAC South. Let's go and have a look and see if we head to Clubhouse one more time. No, it's Oregon. And maybe for the first time in a while, Guz might be happy with this one because he's getting a bit sick of Clubhouse Raven. We at least get something a little bit different tonight.
We do at least get something a little bit different, but Oregon is another of the mainstays in APAC South so far. And look, it is quite a strong map for the Knights. In recent history, they've had some pretty big wins. That QConfirm win that I referenced recently was on Oregon. It was in fact a 7-2 scoreline. The Knights looked fantastic on that evening. So if they can replicate that, I think this is really in favor of the Knights.
I'd say as well for 7th Heaven, not to discount them too much. Obviously, we've seen a bit of Oregon from them. Their match against Chiefs, last week was it? Or 2 weeks ago now. Goodness me, time is flying. I still think that they had a decent performance, pushed it to OT, and there's a chance here that they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with the Knights. Probably, I would say I lean more into the Knights as Oregon just seems to be such a heavily played map in the Oceanic region. So unless they have that Southeast Asian playstyle that'll catch us unaware, I'm probably going to lean to Knights.
You say that, but we haven't really seen Oregon that much, at least in the last 2-3 weeks maybe, right? So we'll have to remain to be seen whether or not that is going to play a part. The thing I do want to bring up here, Raven, as well, is that 7th Heaven started the season strong. They got that big win over Order, but since then they have floundered a little bit. We've seen them really slow down, and they're dropping very slowly down the ladder. I think they're second last at the moment. You lose this, and it's hard to see a way for them to make top 4, top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's hard to say what exactly is going on. Maybe week 1 was just them starting with really high energy. Maybe in that instance, that was against Order. Maybe they just simply outpaced Order. They just happened to, be more on for Playday 1. So the question is really just around their consistency. We can see they can perform, as Manic said as well. They did have a 6-8 loss to Chiefs. Very close. They played pretty well in that match as well. So they can do it. It's just about summoning it out and being consistent with it.
Consistency is what plagues this entire region, isn't it? Being able to, you're seeing it with Giants at the moment. We saw it with Elevate now as we get, now Chiefs. It is always this thing of consistency. What teams can show up on the day and perform week in and week out. There is honestly a real danger when it comes to 7th Heaven, and if you're Knights, you obviously have to be aware of that. But it is a home turf for them, if to say. And we need to see them burrow a home very quickly in the start. Yeah,
it's also something that Knights need to be careful of right now, is they're the only team that has not dropped a map so far in APAC South. Will they be able to hold on to that, on top of the fact that it's the underdog night, right? So it's all kind of stacked against the Knights. Can they do something that other teams can't? And that's called be consistent. If they can win tonight, Knights surely are a lock for the top 4 from here on out. Let's get into this final match of the day. I'm gonna throw it over to my 2 favorite casters.
I'll take that one. I don't know. We were his 2 favorite. He's got loyalty. I like Xenox. I like that.
Yeah, he's alright. It's a shame that he's not the best caster, but
we all have our crosses to bear.
Yeah, wow. I've got to say, Dev, there is a weird aura surrounding this play day. I don't know. I'm getting a bit of a tingle that this is going to be a little bit of a banger.
I feel like this should be Knights taking first place in APAC South League with a convincing 7-2 over 7th Heaven. But I also have a feeling that I might be very, very wrong. This is the night of upsets, and we've seen that 7th Heaven are no pushovers. They've taken some pretty damn good games so far this season, notably their opening match against Order, which they took convincingly 7-3. And here they are on Oregon, with a chance at taking a shot at the king. Let's see whether or not they miss.
Ooh, I think the worrying thing for me, just from the offset, is probably 7th Heaven's history on Oregon. There's a little bit of red in that results column, suggesting that it might not be one of their stronger maps. So that's something they'll have to contest with. The Knights, however, they're looking alright. They've played it once here in APAC South 2021. That was, of course, against Q Confirmed, Devon. That was a pretty convincing 7-2.
Yeah, indeed. We've seen some great showings from Knights in... What is it with everyone banning Yana against the Knights these days? This is not the first time we've seen it. I'm pretty sure it was the Order game that we saw. Knights do love that Yana, and I love it creeping in there. It's a little bit of an unusual ban from 7th Heaven, but they did do it against Chiefs as well last week, so I guess, they just want to get rid of that. A bit less info Knights will have to the table. But yeah, well, okay, alright, a second. There's a mute ban as well. We're seeing these come into popularity as well. We already saw, I think it was a mute ban in the first game of the day. And I'm all for it. So you have a little bit of information on the attack denied by banning out the Yana. And usually when you get rid of the Yana, you fill it with another operator that isn't necessarily info gatherer. Like Yana usually fills the spot of your nade player, so it's usually like a sledge. So you're denying a bit of info there. And then that mute ban also means that 7th Heaven will have an easier go at droning as well, I guess. So I don't know, I'm keen for this. This is quite an unusual ban phase.
Yeah. Good to see a little bit of variation on Oregon. Haven't seen Oregon for a while. It feels like you either get it a lot or just none of it. Oh well, anything is better than 4 matches of Clubhouse. And wow, all right,
I know you
Spirited.
really wanted the Clubhouse.
Yeah. The Spirited, of course, as the boys mentioned in the pre-show, jumping into this team, placing Xeno, and straight away, he's going to be 6-picking onto the Monty. And that's interesting, because the Knights historically probably haven't had to play against Monty a whole lot. Not very popular in OCE compared to Southeast Asia. So I hope that the Knights know how to counter this. They've probably played against it quite a bit in their scrims and in their practice. So very keen to see how they deal with it.
Yeah, you got the Legion there, which is a nice little additive to put a literal thorn in Monty's side. But the thing with Monty is he excels at just attacking the site head on. And for a minute there, it was going to be that kitchen dining bomb site chosen. Switched over eventually to dorms. But there is a chance here that Monty could pull off, an attic take, or probably you would see it either attic or from trophy, and especially anywhere where you're standing on top of concrete floor, which is both of those areas, you're safe from C4s, and that is where the Monty is safest and often most effective.
Bit of action over towards the main tower. It's Sage. He's trying to rotate below, but there's a player inside of blue. That's Pecan trying to cut him off. But both players will back away. It's a stalemate for the meanwhile. And Sage will try and reclaim control, I would presume, back up Armory stairs, and the Ash can rotate elsewhere.
Not a bad deal there for Sage, though he did lose more HP. Took out a drone, not to be understated. Also wasted a bit of time off of 7thHeaven. I like the way that Juicy came to support Sage, but as we can see, 7thHeaven actually ignoring that basement right now. But look at this roam, so significant. 3 Knights players. 2 on the basement and 1 over in showers. That's Hayward on the foul, which was, I believe, a 6th pick alongside that Monty on the attacking side. In fact, the only guy that's really on site right now is Josh, and I mean, he's an addict, so is that even really on site? Very spread out from Knights, so I'm going to see whether they react quickly to this push and start to get more bodies on site.
I guess the Knights may be preempting some mid-round aggression from 7thHeaven, but outside of that little battle, outside of blue, there really hasn't been a whole lot going on offside, and in fact the attack has been pretty orthodox for the most part. We did see briefly just before 7thHeaven, and they've opened up attic. Spirited meanwhile, he's located on the bedroom balcony, so he will likely make his way through trophy. I don't think there's really a chance of that games wall getting opened. Maybe ED can come across if Pecan can clear that utility, but that's going to be tough, especially considering just how quickly that timer is ticking down.
Speaking of the timer, really not a single engagement after that initial tussle downstairs, and we only got 45 seconds left in this round. 7thHeaven need to get a move on. ED though taking control of attic, and I like this rotation hole created. That allows Spirited to cross over and get more info, like a live drone. Can he see the top of his head?
No, he can't. It's just the wall. It's just the wall. I had a little panic attack there. Sorry, Deb.
25 seconds now left, and I feel like 7thHeaven are surely going to have a panic attack in a moment. They didn't get the games wall open whatsoever. It's a desperate push from all angles. Pika is a wallbang away from his opening pick. The flashbang comes through, and Juicy opens the engagement. It's all the Knights all day long. The 7thHeaven start to get in it. Ray desperately looking for more than the 1. He finds 2, and that's all that he's allotted this round. Knights close out a convincing opening defense.
7thHeaven going for a very traditional take there. Outside, I guess, of maybe the games wall not being open, which may have been to their detriment. It does fall through in the end, and the Knights able to rotate back from what was seemingly quite an aggressive roam. Able to hold on and claim the first round, so it's a solid start for them. I wonder if the Knights will continue that aggression though. I mean, this lineup is suggesting we may well see that. Sage on Mozzie, Josh on the Vigil as well.
Yeah, very much like info denial kind of roam. I wonder how much the mute ban would really affect that here, because it was 7thHeaven who banned it, and Knights wouldn't have gone into this game expecting that mute to be banned out.
6 pick there onto the Monty once again, so Spirited sticking with the big shieldy boy. Again, plenty of opportunities to utilize him. Maybe through blue, I would say. You could even spice it up if you wanted to go for a front push. Down laundry stairs could work out alright, especially if you want to try and capitalize on what we're expecting is an aggressive roam from the Knights. We could just see in the corner of the screen earlier, Sage sending out a couple of early Mozzie pests, Dino as well, punching open the walls for rotation. So all signs so far are indicating that there will be at least some sort of room here.
Oh, this looks like quite a heavy roam, honestly. Like, there's that meeting hatch open to allow Knights to go back to site as needed, and they've even got reinforcements off site. This is pretty sweaty, guys. Not gonna lie, here from Knights, they're getting very sweaty. Reinforcements above the meeting hatch in attic, and reinforcements on the second floor tower to attic wall as well. This is very sweaty.
Wow, imagine sweating in a huge game in APAC South. That is just absolutely... that's toxic, dude.
These Knights guys are such nerds.
Well, we'll have to see if it works out, though. Dino still deploying his utility. Last year, your gate does go up line of sight from the meeting hatch down towards blue. That could come in handy as... So Josh as well on the roam, Sage falling off. I mean, it feels like everyone at the moment on the side of the Knights is just shuffling around and really trying to work out where this attack is actually being prodded from.
I think the jig is up here for 7thHeaven. I mean, as soon as you're a defender and you look and you see a Monty somewhere, you're like, okay, that's where they're pushing from, everyone. They're all in blue. They're all in blue and tower. And look, honestly, Knights don't have too much to worry about while they have this control upstairs because, I mean, 7thHeaven, they're starting to encroach upon the site, but surely there's no way they get in here without that vertical pressure biting them in the back.
Spirited really needs to get to work here and try and dislodge some of these defenders, all of which you seem to be sitting quite comfortably, whether that be on side or in a position maybe to flank late. Does 7thHeaven have flank watch? No. Maybe they have drones up, but they need to have Souffle quickly flicking through them and giving really good calls here. Pika seems to be aware that there's a chance of a flank, but he needs to hit the shot. That was an awkward timing.
Dino really doesn't need to peek this, honestly. Now Pika is dedicating to this flank watch, but Josh is still above, still has these great angles. As I hear smokes going out, is there a chance for an execute here? Knights say absolutely not. Spirited knows he needs to make a play, or at least he thinks so, and he cops a knife to the throat from Sage. ED now looking to salvage something, but he's the only man left. Knights have open and shut this case with a flawless round, making 7thHeaven look like chumps.
Yeah, it's not been a great start here for 7thHeaven. Not really fulfilling me with much hope. That said, it is only early days, so you don't want to talk too soon, but yeah, they're just not really getting any sort of footing in towards sight. And the one operator that you would expect to facilitate that being the Montang really isn't having an impact, or maybe by the time you're expecting the Montang to have an impact, most of your team's dead, or at least part of your team is dead, and you can't really play off that. So props to the Knights. They're punishing them for their mistakes, and if they can complete the round the world here and win meeting, well, then things start to look really bad.
I want to get on it too early, but it's certainly been quite a day for Aussie teams. I mean, Order already taking that big win over Elevate. And, you know, of course, Chiefs Wildcard was going to be an Aussie win either way, and People Film Giants wasn't going to be an Aussie win either way. But it may well be here that with the Oceanic teams doing so poorly, let's be honest, this season that so far, like Knights are the only team that's been looking competitive in APAC South so far. The other three, at the start of this Playday, were in the bottom 3 spots. It's certainly a nice change of pace for any Oceanic fans out there. Hashtag not biased caster.
Hashtag not me.
Yeah.
Not biased.
But I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. The thing is that this is just so dominant so far. I mean, yeah, we're only 2 rounds deep. It's we're barely seen the tip of this iceberg, but it's looking pretty open and shut so far. 7thHeaven really need to change things up, and thankfully they have a little bit. Spirited finally foregoing that Monty and checking the Maverick instead. And we've actually seen also the Nomad brought out instead of that Ace from Ray, and I think that means that 7thHeaven won't have to dedicate as much time to watching this flanks if they just have utility to do that job for.
Flank watch as well being brought to the table here from 7thHeaven. Another good switch up here in their attacking lineup. The Knights will of course need to be mindful of that if they want to play aggressive off-site, maybe go for a flank over towards Big Tower late, as I assume that's where the attack will be headed from. Spirited opening the common angles here on the Big Tower wall. A line of sight that can be watched from the top of the stairs, and an entry hole on the right side of the wall. Josh, though, he's peeking it from below. It's an aggressive angle, but if he finds a pick, that could be big.
Loading new magazine.
7th Heaven making some good progress so far, looking to take control of the top floor. Now this is kitchen meeting, of course, as we've seen. Least favored bomb site on this map, but the teams who do pick it tend to have a good strategy in mind. And if there's anything we can say about Knights, it's that they have certainly looked like they know what they're doing in this game. And they're lying in wait, just look at them. But I don't want to have to wait any longer for the first pick. Pika finds his head, and 1 minute 15, Josh fights back from inside meeting, taking down Spirited. 4v4 at the moment, and Souffle also starting to encroach upon this defense from the Knights upstairs, but for the most part it looks like the Knights players have fallen back.
Minute left on the board. Juicy watching double window from down below inside of security as Sage barricades off small tower to cover his flank.
Attackers recovered the...
How is 7th Heaven going to shape up here for the Executor? Could be very tough as Josh finds one, but it is a good trade from Ray. A little bit sketched there, whiffing a couple of shots, but he gets the job done in the end as the diffuser's been taken over towards kitchen. Maybe 7th Heaven will try to attack from there, but it's going to be tough. Juicy in a great position to shut that down if that's what they go for.
This patience exhibited by the Knights may well pay off. There's 20 seconds left. That timer is 7th Heaven's worst enemy. The Souffle is lying in wait. Knights aren't giving him any kind of opening. Ray has to make an impact here. Juicy shuts him down and slaps that diffuser firmly on the ground. Now there is a refrag from Pika. He's looking for more as he gets that diffuser and starts to force it down, but Hayward flanks in through splits and mows down the final two players. It looked for a moment like we might see 7th Heaven get back into it, but Hayward steps up and stamps them out.
Solid work there from Hayward. I think Juicy, as well as I framed it, was also key in that round. He most importantly won that swing rather, and got the diffuser down, which didn't leave much time for 7th Heaven to recover. They got the plant down just in the nick of time, in fact, and in the 1 versus 2 effectively, they weren't able to hold on. Hayward cleaning those players up, and in doing so, Knights have now completed the Round the World tour. 3 sites in a row. They've won all 3. And that's where it starts to look very, very scary. Where does the attack find their opening? What site can they try and turn back towards their favour?
My question is 7th Heaven even going to be able to breach Games Wall this time? Because we didn't see that last attack onto Dorms whatsoever. And I feel like the default Games Room attic split attack for this bomb site is you breach Games Wall, you take attic control, you take all the way up to pit, and then you basically just want to cross in and try and force down a plant. That's the gist of it, right? And the other attack that's being more popularized on this site as of late is like a white stairs big window attack, which obviously comes from those 2 avenues primarily. And we didn't really see 7th Heaven do either of those attacks last round. They kind of just didn't really successfully get Games Wall, and I didn't see them trying very hard for it. I don't know whether they just decided to give up because the electric claws were too hard to clear. But they kind of went for a push that, requires that Games Wall to work. Without that Games Wall, and it didn't work, obviously. Sometimes you can get away with doing things like that when you have Monty, but yeah, not the case. Now they don't have the Monty. I want to know whether they go for that Games Wall. I think it is the play here. They just got to make sure that they're good at actually doing the due diligence and getting that wall open, because it's no easy feat when you've got a team like Knights who are so good at blocking it.
That said, 7th Heaven didn't have too many issues opening up attic wall last time, and that will be the focus of their initial efforts here in round number 4. Spirited on the Mav. He'll get to work. Very similar pattern to what we saw earlier, so he's creating that line of sight for Ray on the Nomad to peek through on the left-hand side, and then he'll create the crouch hole on the right to apply pressure over towards Pit. 3 players stacked here though. Not sure if this is really the play. Normally you'd see a buddy system too, as that third player can be elsewhere getting to work, but they're already doing some work. Yeah, Classroom wall has been popped, or popped from Classroom rather, and I would expect ED now to come across as he repels up to chuck a couple of summers on that wall and get it open.
Yeah, it's really good from Pika clearing off the Etcher core, but the problem is now, ED's got Dino to contend with, and oh, okay, Dino falls back. Fortunately for him, as it looks like ED was kind of aware of that. Banshee cleared as well. This is looking much more impressive from 7th Heaven. Also, the fact that Knights used all of their impacts just for rotations in the prep phase, instead of keeping any of them to trick this Ace Summer, means that this breach is getting open.
A bomb has been located.
Oh, you are indeed correct, Dev. And talk about openings. Pika gets the first there on to Sage. Of course, those Banshees already would have been placed by the Melusi, but Sage actually in recent times has been a very strong fragger, so he may be sorely missed here in the final stages of the round. But Hayward gets one back quite quickly, leaving it in the 4-on-4 for what I assume will be a pretty crazy execute.
Big pick as well. Pika has been the player to open things up for 7th Heaven. Ray on for the flank. Is he watching? Is he aware that there's someone in Classroom? I believe that's Hayward just down below. Surely Ray finds this. Ray has got to find this. The diffuse is going down. Hayward's doing nothing. Shot in the back of the head. The Souffle desperately trying to salvage this as the diffuse plant was denied. Juicy stepped up before he was shut down. 2v2. And 7th Heaven don't have the diffuser going down. Souffle starts it, but now it's the 0-0. Ray has to hold on, and the injure comes through at the last moment. Josh swings it with the revolver, and that's 4 rounds straight for the Knights.
Good little swing there with the pistol, goes bop, doesn't find the kill, but the down was enough. This match really feels like it's starting to slip away a little bit. 7th Heaven, they've been a bit of a surprise package so far in this stage. They came in as a bit of an underdog. Their 2020 campaign was quite weak, but they've shocked us in just how strong they've been already in this season. But now they're versing one of the top teams in the region, and they seem to have hit a bit of a roadblock.
I do feel like that round, though, was the best showing from 7th Heaven, despite it eventually going the way of Knights, right? The fact that they managed to breach that wall, they found the opening pick, they looked to be really well set up, but then I mean, we didn't get to see what happened on the execute, why it fell apart, how that plan got denied, but that was really the linchpin of that attack, the moment where it all fell to pieces for them. We'll see whether 7th Heaven can really have anything to show on this basement attack, because honestly, guys, this is where I fear for the most. Knights have a pretty rigorous roam setup here, and it's the kind of thing that you can't get away with cheesing. You have to address head on. And, well, 7th Heaven have brought the Jackal, so that's something.
Yeah, a little bit of a switch up there. They brought the Ace last time they played this objective, but yeah, switching onto the Intel Gatherer might be able to help them out a little bit more. Again, casting our minds back to that last attempt down below. It was in fact flawless, of course, in favor of the Knights. So surely you'd have to back them here once again to pull off another round win, but I think the aggression on this roam could be potentially a little bit volatile, so something to keep an eye on. Yeah, if 7th Heaven, especially with that Jackal on the board, are able to clear these players, well, hey, maybe they can turn the tide.
Like that renegade on the external tower just delays a bit of time there, a bit of aggression. Love this information as well. What a beautiful setup that we have from the Knights. I didn't even get to see this completely the first time. So many aggressive Aruni gates, really on the outside of the map. Pika, 3rd round in the row, he has found that opening pick. But not a single one so far has been converted to a win.
Very true. Pika has gotten literally the last 3 opening kills, and obviously 7th Heaven unable to fully capitalize upon those as of yet, but maybe this round will be a little bit different. Still narrowly holding an angle, waiting for a player to rotate down Armory stairs. Meanwhile, Spirit has been taken down as Pika tries to whack the camera on the wall. Eventually, of course, shoots the back of it. He's expecting a player to come down here on the rotation. I think there's one in Armory. It's Josh. Is he trapped?
He's created a getaway opportunity with that window. Souffle knows he's in there. Is the hatch open though? It's not. Josh has no idea there's a player right next to him.
Attackers recovered the diffuser.
But he falls off. And this may well favor Josh, this timing. He knows that Souffle is right there. Souffle has been a standout player in the past. And here goes in Pika, and Josh takes him down. Souffle finds that refrag. That is essential. And finally, Souffle gets himself on the board as well.
A little bit messy inside of Armory there for 7th Heaven, but most importantly, they trade out the pick. They don't give away the 2k, and in doing so, they have the man advantage for the remainder of the round. Diffuser's in the hand of Spirited. I thought he was going to rotate through Garage there, maybe for a front take, but now the whole team is rotating over towards blue. 30 seconds to work with. They don't have a very big margin for error.
My God, this is desperate. They are just sending it. Here comes ED. Breaches onto the site wall. Hayward finds one upstairs. Now Juicy met with the full force of 7th Heaven. Swipes and takes down the head, and Hayward cleans up the remaining players. Knights once again lock in a dominant round defending Laundry.
How do we feel about the last second rotation there, Dev? I don't know. In theory, you could argue it makes a little bit of sense to switch it up late. Maybe in the backs of their minds, they thought that Knights would have been expecting the front push and they wanted to switch it up. But like I said, it had such a small margin for error. And once they lost 1 or 2 picks, it just absolutely compounded. So
yeah, exactly it. Knights just have come into this game with clearly such good preparation, guys. I'm seeing so many new strats I've never seen before, and it looks like Knights have played these strats 100 times. The way that they are moving around them when throwing a curveball, for example, as soon as Knights knew that all of 7th Heaven were pushing blue, the way that they rotated, the way that they prepared for that was just so good. And I think just at a fundamental level, Knights are just looking like such a strong team right now, which is funny because you go over to the OCN, and they've kind of been struggling a bit. Like, they lost to Order over there, they lost to Rufflecopter, they also lost to the now Chiefs roster. But here in APAC South, they're cleaning house. They've taken down Q-Confirm and Chiefs, of course, and Order. And this is, funnily enough, I just realized only the second Southeast Asian team they've played in APAC South so far. The rest have been Oceanic teams that they're used to versing elsewise. And it seems that Knights have a really good matchup against these Southeast Asian teams because, guys, they've only dropped 2 rounds against Asian teams at all in APAC South so far. That is insane.
Yeah, I guess the real test really for the Knights will be the final 2 Playdays, right? They've got Giants and Elevate, so arguably the 2 strongest Southeast Asian teams. But I guess if a match like this is any form guide, then maybe they'd be a serious chance. At least in the Giants game. I mean, even the Elevate game, they've both faltered. So, really is anyone's for the taking. Maybe with that said, 7th Heaven can do something crazy here. They're going to have to at least take 1 round in the half, you would assume. Give themselves an inkling of hope. But so far, their attacks have felt a little bit uninspired. And as you said, the Knights bringing out a lot of different strategies that we haven't seen before. And 7th Heaven just struggling to deal with those.
Being able to adapt and counter these strategies Knights are bringing on their feet has not been a strength here for 7th Heaven. As we see drones just falling 1 by 1. Only 6 left out of the 10 that originated here for 7th Heaven. Despite that nuke ban, information seems to be at an all-time low. A rare commodity for the attack. And like you say, surely 7th Heaven need to at least win 1 here to keep even the dream of this game alive. Knights have just looked so good, and as they peel back and have 1 player drop down the hatch, Knights are just giving up ground and fortifying their position as time is wasted.
Well, if the Knights win this round, they get 1 point at least in the standings. That'll be enough to jump into first place. That's pretty huge for them. So an important round, and Josh kicks things off with the first pick. That is the flank watch taken off the board. Meanwhile, Spirited and Souffle both taking a tickle of damage as they try and clear some of that utility placed inside of Attic. Minute to go. And once again, the clock really is the biggest enemy of 7th Heaven.
After Knights defeated Q Confirm 7-2, they said, in their interview, Dino said, wasn't good enough. We know we can do better, and here they're out to prove it. Hayward with the alibi, peeking through a Prisma. Very cheeky position, but it's Pika on the other side. The proven best player so far for 7th Heaven this game. Hayward needs to land this
Attackers
shot.
have located a bomb.
He needs to nail this. Pika is all the more desperate, but he's walking straight into a dead-on crossfire as well. Hayward starts to peek out as Dino finds Spirited. And surely this is the end of the line for 7th Heaven. Pika just lying in wait, sees the player, reveals his position. Hayward cleans him up, and a second as well. It's all on Souffle in a 1 versus 4, and there is no way in hell he is going to make this work. Knights take 6 rounds in a row and put themselves on match point in what could be a flawless game.
They put themselves on match point and they put themselves at the top of the standings in APAC South. It's been a massive result for them so far, and there's no sign of them slowing down anytime soon. They have plenty of leeway now to make a couple of mistakes in the second half if they so desire, but as he said, Dino will probably not be satisfied with anything less than a 7-0 considering how this has played out so far. And I don't see any reason why it should slow down.
Wow, what a place we have found ourselves in. Quick Game's a good game. It's not even 10 p.m. yet, guys, and we might be wrapping up this show in the next 3.5 minutes.
That means we have time for some ranked later, maybe.
Absolutely does. Certainly going to take some inspiration from the absolute showcase of excellence we have seen from the Knights. And honestly, can you put into words how good Knights are right now? Like, what is it that they are doing right? To me, it's a bit of everything. Like, they're bringing these new strategies, but also, like, I feel like, yes, they haven't been challenged much, so they haven't been tested in this game to expose their weaknesses, but like, their crossfires that they're setting up are so good. Like, their patience is so good. Their decision-making, they seem to never overpeak. I feel like everything's just going right for them.
Yeah, it's really just one of those games where nothing feels like it's going wrong for them, and any weaknesses that might be there just aren't being exploited. So we'll have to see if that form continues in this second half. The false setup really from 7th Heaven here. They've created lines of sight in towards blue and inside of Freezer as well. Souffle on the roam finds one drone, I believe. There's more drones head out. The Knights looking to take control of the small tower across, and there is a chance we see a gunfight ensue in just a moment.
7th Heaven looking for their first round in the game. Spirited subbing in, yet to find a single kill. Not particularly big shoes to fill either. Sino is the second lowest rated player in APAC South so far. Hayward looking for one. Patient on the peak, walks into that crossfire, and Pika finds the first one. He has been the shining light for 7th Heaven, and on the back of that pick, they fall back.
Minute 50 left on the board, and Dino will get to work on the hatches with the X-Kairos launch. Josh meanwhile getting aggressive towards bottom Freezer. Sees the shoulder
Located a bomb.
of Souffle, who has been a very strong player for 7th Heaven so far this season. One of their top frags and one of the best in the league. But he's not good enough for Josh, who finds that pick and evens up the man count.
Bomb located by
So
attackers.
much time left now. Just under half the round remaining for Knights, and they have all the control that they could possibly want. Every possible hatch is breached. It's just about starting to push on and making a call for their execute. Blue completely foregone for the Knights as the diffuser is in the hands of Juicy in Freezer as they start to put the pressure on. It is Pika on the other side. So far the best player on this roster, but Sage cleans him up. 3v3, ED turns up huge. And it's a mayhem here in the server. Dino looking for another. He saw the backpack. Surely he can put Ed's rampage to an end. All on Spirited, yet to find a frag in the 1 versus 2. And Knights may well make this flawless, but Spirited is here to stay. A 1v1. Can he clutch up, or will Knights make this flawless? It is all on Josh. 30 seconds left on the peak. Spirited waiting with the shotgun. He's got the yellow ping. Josh has to make this work. The pre-fire, and Spirited goes hunting. Is he gonna find it? Josh, he's got to get this to work. But still they're running around. They have no idea. Josh has to find this peak. The pre-fire, but Spirited clutches. And 7thHeaven fight back.
What was that? Wow, Ringa Rosie between the final two in the server. Josh unable to close it out, and it drags on for just a little bit longer, just like that engagement seemed to drag on for an eternity. But at least it will not be a 7-0 victory. It would have been the most dominant win so far in APAC South, and in fact, if the Knights win 7-1, that still reigns true.
Yeah, it's certainly possible here for Knights. I feel like they're going to be looking at that and saying, it should have been a 7-0. Whatever the scoreline is from here on out, Knights will be kicking themselves, especially if 7thHeaven starts to mount a little bit of a comeback. And looking over to the league as a whole so far, in terms of round difference, Knights are certainly up there. Coming into this Playday, they were at +9 rounds, so that's all the rounds won minus rounds lost. Xavier were at +10. Obviously, Xavier in Elevate. Of course, after Elevate's loss today to Order, that will have gone down. And there's no doubt about it, Knights is going to go up today. So they will be leading in the rounds difference. And that can make a difference when it comes to tiebreakers. Of course, as the end of the season draws near, breaking ties is going to be very, very important. Not only is that head-to-head score between Knights and particularly Elevate and Giants going to be really important in the coming days to decide the standings, but also that round difference may make a difference.
I'm reloading.
Upstairs has been, of course, selected by 7thHeaven. Pika going on a little bit of a tour of Oregon and situates himself over towards small tower, back to the window, looks for a spawn peak, but that does not prove fruitful, and he doesn't hang around for too much longer. He might consider a run out here, and that could work in dislodging a player on the Master Rappel, for example, but again, he just thinks better of it, plays for his life, and that's probably the best idea here against the Knights, who have been, throughout the first 7 rounds, really punishing any mistakes from 7thHeaven. In particular, they're over-peaking. It just has not served them well, and I'm sure the Knights again will be looking to shut that down.
Certainly a chance here for 7thHeaven to recompose a little bit, and I mean, at the very least, claim some dignity back after that first half, which they didn't find a single attacking round win. I got a nice stat for you with 7 rounds into the game and still not a single attack round one, guys.
Wow, I really think they need to nerf Jaeger and Wamaimo. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I like this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is an interesting opening of the game's wall. Syria Gate still left standing as well, which fortifies his Spirited's position. He's sitting on top of the couch, has a Banshee close by as well to slow any approaching enemies, and he can use his gas canisters as well to slow down that push even further. Dino playing it safe as Sage will flash out Pit. Looks like the Knights are trying to take control, and Juicy will head forward. Does he find the pick? No, but Sage does. He falls in the process as well, but Sage, of course, left standing. No! Taken down by Pika. So now it's 4-on-3.
Advantage for 7thHeaven once again. This could be the moment where they get back-to-back rounds and start to mount something with the semblance of a comeback. 2v3. Dino still doesn't have any utility to clear that gate. Josh standing in that Banshee, but 7thHeaven retain their composition. They don't move. Surely the barrel was spotted there. Josh whiffs his shots, and Souffle finds another one. ED claims Dino's life, and 7th Heaven out of just about nowhere have found back-to-back defenses.
Well, maybe there is a bit more of a game on our hands here than we thought. 7th Heaven not going down without a fight, throwing a couple of blows of their own. If they can go around the world here, kitchen dining, they win this. Whew. Wow, that would be a very fair effort. And it would mean that we've seen 9 defensive rounds, 1 straight, which would be a little bit nutty. First time we're seeing dining though, Dev, I believe, because previously, of course, we saw a meeting kitchen played by the Knights. So, yeah, we're well and truly going to see all the sites.
Love to see it.
Attackers need to locate.
Yeah, I don't mind this site.
bombs.
I like both of the kitchen sites, dining and meeting. I think they're both kind of fun. I like the little showers minigame that kind of tends to play out over here, but Hibana does kind of break that.
What is 7th Heaven going to do here? Probably expecting them to extend above in towards kids, fortify that position, blow the hatch, and get line of sight in towards the A-bomb site. Ray fortifying that position would reaffirm that assumption in terms of the rest of the site. I assume there'd be a showers extension. That said, holding showers now is as more difficult than ever. Especially when in the past teams were heavily reliant on ADS devices and wire magnets, both of which arguably aren't as strong. Does look like they'll commit though. I guess the Knights will be looking to clear that as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened with the Knights these last 2 rounds. It looked like they are smurfing on defense, and on attack, they just looked alright. They didn't look that great. They were close rounds. First round was definitely less close. I feel like Knights should have had that in the bag. It was just a 1v2. But the fact that it's starting to get more convincing for 7th Heaven does make me a bit worried for Knights, but here's a cheeky setup upstairs.
Pika goes for a peek. That doesn't quite hit the mark. It's Hayward contesting that position, and Josh ready and waiting to cut this player off. Can they clear Pika? That's the question. Sage finds one off screen, but there's still a player causing trouble at the top of small tower. Finds the pick. If the Knights had won that, surely they would have won the round, but Pika goes big. Possibly fights 3, no, but still sits in this precarious position.
How on earth does a player find 2 picks hard-holding office after his shield was cleared, looking for a 3rd one eventually? Juicy shuts him down, but it may be too little too late here for the Knights. It's just Juicy and Sage left to pull this one out of thin air.
Minute 20 left on the board. Sage has intel on a player on site. Juicy will send another drone in from small tower and can get intel on kitchen. Sage, meanwhile, does spot one. That's over towards the showers corridor down near bottom Y. They know that small towers are clear and showers as well, so they can create a small foothold here. But again, in the 2 versus 3, this will be tough.
50 seconds. Still 2 nades left, at least for Sage, but then my discs still proving to be a hindrance. Showers control forfeited, but Spirited is here and waiting. Oh, he's shut down. That's a pivotal kill there from Juicy, and it may have turned this round on its head. Knights looking to recompose. Souffle traded, and once again it's a 1v1 to determine whether Knights can hold it down. And Ray sprays down the Sage and caught with a nade in his hands, unawares, and 7th Heaven storm 3 rounds in a row.
Wow, this match is still going. The Knights unable to close it out. It looked like a certain 7-0. Why shouldn't it be? But 7th Heaven have put a spanner in the works. Attack pause has been called, of course, for the Knights. Makes sense. They want to halt this momentum, take a breather, and work out exactly how they're going to close this one out.
Well, much needed tech pause here, Gus. I think anyone who's a Knights fan is having a heart attack right now. I certainly know Xenox is off screen. He's certainly got a vested interest in this game. Going to the way of Knights. He's made a bet with old mate Manic. He really wants to prove Manic wrong. That Manic predicted the upset here. I specifically remember hearing Manic say before this game, I wish I could go back and change my result. I definitely think he's not... he's not feeling that way anymore, I think.
I wonder what the Knights were talking about in that little tack pause. Just resetting the mental, making sure everyone's feeling alright. There's no need to be too concerned. You still have 3 rounds to fall off. Or to fall back on, rather. Shouldn't be too panicked at the moment. Of course, it's been a while since they attempted laundry.
Defenders protect
Quick
your bombs
flashback
from
to that.
being used by attackers.
And the end of that round, Dev, I mean, you called it. Do you want to relive it a little bit? It was a little bit interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really feel like that should have been a Knights win. Now, while Pika did find the first pick, there was certainly a strong position for Knights to execute on. They just had so much time going for them. And like in that 4v4, they had a lot of time, a lot of grounds, and then eventually it just came down to that 2v1. I can't believe that Spirited went from having a donut, like still 9 rounds
10
in,
seconds left before
and the
insertion.
only 2 kills Spirited has got in this entire game was the clutch,
seconds left before
staring
insertion.
down a 7-0 match point in a 1v2. Those are the 2 kills that Spirit has gotten, and frankly, like, that's the only 2 kills he needs for now. Because if he hadn't got those 2 kills, 7thHeaven, this game would have been over at 7-0.
Yeah, for everyone in chat wanting to earn packs, you can thank Spirited for this broadcast going a little bit longer. So better show your love in the chat. That's all I'm going to say. ED, though, shuts down
man.
Hayward, looking to just extend this match for a little bit longer.
Yeah, at what point do you start to tilt a little bit as Knights? Like, they took their tack pause, that's down and used up. They've got to capitalize on that. Otherwise, you know, it's not a limited, unlimited resource. That's the only tack pause they get in the whole map. And if they lose this round, I don't know, man. Like, is this actually possible? A 6-4, that feels just so reasonable that 7thHeaven could realistically come back.
Starts to get a little bit more worrying. The more pressure that compounds here on the attack. The Knights looking again to open up these hatches and work their way forward. It's Juicy and Freezer probing for a pick. No drones in hand, but the team does have 6 on the board that could be used to gather some intel. That's sad. 7thHeaven playing deep in towards the site. The Knights will need to use this utility effectively to clear these players and clear these positions.
So much time to make it work. One nade toss down. It burns the first of 3 ADSs. You need a whole lot more than that to get the job done here. And when that 10-second window subsides in just a moment, that ADS will be back and active again. Bit of a wasted opportunity. Dino's going to come and use his flashes. That is perfect.
Minute left on the board now. Dino burning the ADS. That allows Juicy to cook a nade and send it deep, but it doesn't find its mark. That could be a critical miss. Forces Sage to go deep on the swing.
No!
Gets caught off guard, but Souffle! Hello? Misses the peak. Doesn't get punished, though. Both players botting out. Souffle goes big. It's a double in this round. I don't know what's going on, but it's left in the 3-on-2. Souffle, he goes big. It's 3. Josh now inside of Laundry needs to clutch up.
How did this happen? Josh, a 1v2. Surely you can make it happen. 20 seconds left. He couldn't win the 1v1 to close out the game 7-0. Now he's got a taller task to undertake. In the 1v2, Pika shuts him down. 7thHeaven have made this comeback a reality. It is a 6-4 scoreline. 7thHeaven are making a massive statement.
Look, I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling it before, but now the comeback really does start to get serious. 2 rounds away from heading it to overtime. Again, sure, the Knights, they're top of the standings, they've got at least 1 point, but they should be getting 3. It doesn't happen very often that you see a team get reverse swept after a 6-0 lead. In fact, I don't even know the last time that has happened at a global tier 1 level. It is that rare. Surely the Knights could just close this out.
Yeah, there are certainly not many games like this that I've seen before.
Attackers need to locate.
Certainly not many reverse sweeps like this. I mean, I'm still not convinced it's going to happen, guys. I'm scared, but I still don't think it's going to happen. But every time I say that to myself inside, I'm thinking, is this real? Is this actually going to happen? Is this possible?
I feel
Surely
like
the Knights don't let this happen.
I feel like you're probably echoing the sentiment of maybe some of the Knights players at the moment, right? They're probably thinking in the backs of their minds, oh yeah, look, it's a chance, but like surely we close this out, lads. Come on, let's just close it out. But they've been saying that now for the last 4 rounds, and it gets to the point where you start to get a little bit frustrated. And sure, the attack pause may have reset that, but as you said, it's only a finite resource. They've already used it, and if that mental starts to slip, how are they going to recover? I don't know.
Surely it's not too far gone. Surely not. The Knights really need to get some composure back because they have honestly looked terrible in every one of these attacks bar maybe like 1 or 2 moments. And I mean, that absolute cluster duck of a moment last round in Freezer where Souffle got that 3K. Just unbelievable that was allowed to happen. Similar can be said for some of these plays that Pika has been able to pull off. He's been by far and away the highlight of this game for 7thHeaven. But some of those moments, you're thinking surely Knights are not letting this happen. And, well, they absolutely are. And it goes to show, I think, that 7thHeaven are kind of living rent-free in Knights' head right now.
One player that I'm looking at to step up here for the Knights is Dino. In fact, he's been their top-rated player and a little bit quieter here. Sure, he's playing the Habana role, but he's basically been playing anything and finding picks so far here in APAC South. So maybe if he steps up, he can be what the Knights need. Again, we see the 3-man set up over towards Big Tower, and Souffle will play the roaming Malusi, just ready and waiting to seize upon any opportunity that opens up for a flank. Looks like Attic has been breached and pressure will be applied towards Pit quite soon. It's Ray playing that position as the nades get sent out. He's lying prone, ready and waiting for a player to drop down.
It feels like Knights are playing to their dry run, and 7thHeaven are playing to the team that they're versing. Like, Knights aren't hunting any of these roamers. They're just like going through the checklist, and maybe that's not the right move right now. Maybe Knights just need to focus on punishing some of these players from 7thHeaven.
Could be the play. Josh, meanwhile, actually on the edge of an engagement here with Souffle, another fantastic player in this league, and again standing out for 7thHeaven, going 8-7. Might not be the best numbers, but in a matchup this close, it is quite impressive. Oh no, he could get hunted down. Josh needs to be careful.
Suryuke reactivated. That's an angle and a half from Souffle. Perfectly timed with Pika. And the 2 players to step it up from 7thHeaven have got themselves back into this round. That flank is everything they needed. And Knights are falling to pieces. Hayward and Sage have to step up. But 7thHeaven have somehow made this marathon achievable. 5-6 is the scoreline. And there's one last round of regulation for Knights to lock it out. Otherwise, 7thHeaven are stealing away at least a point from this game.
1 round, 1 lifeline left for the Knights to claim 3 points and really assert their dominance in this league, or at least establish themselves as truly the #1 team. This has been quite the barn burner. At the end of the half, if you're just tuning in, the Knights are up 6-0. 6-0, Dev. There hasn't been a single attack round 1. This is insane. And now the Knights,
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
they just need to get one to close this map out. But it really is a case of easier said than done.
Lads, what can you do at this point? I don't even know at this point.
Say a prayer, I think. Let's get into that sort of point.
What can Knights even do? We talked to so many teams before. You say you can't just focus on the negatives. You can't
5
focus on the
seconds to
pressure
insertion.
points, like the fact that you're one round away. You can't let that get to you. But at some point, like, you've got to reel it in and
locate and
take a
defuse
breath
the
of fresh
bomb.
air. These guys have used their tactical timeout, and that didn't help them whatsoever. They need something to change, and they need it right now. If they don't win this round, they forfeit 1 point to 7thHeaven.
A great start here for the Knights would be to get the opening pick in the last 2 rounds. They haven't. And of course, 7thHeaven have capitalized. Pika, again, he's playing small tower. This was the linchpin for 7thHeaven last time. The Knights could not clear this position effectively. They need to shut him down.
And the patience comes through and pays dividends for Josh. He's really struggled. He's been the player to fail at all those critical scenarios, but he takes down the man of the hour for 7thHeaven and Pika. That is massive.
The risk doesn't pay off. That's big for the Knights, but it's only a small piece of the larger puzzle that has been solved. Still a lot of work that needs to be done, and next on the checklist, I assume, would be to clear showers. Ray, holding that position, can impact trick the wall and successfully does so. With the last of his impacts, 2x Kairos gets sent out, and it's actually ED to replace him and knock that out as well. But it is followed up by even more X Kairos. No impacts left on the board, and that is a line of sight created now.
Looks like Knights may have the best shot at closing out match point that they have had all game long. As every piece falls into place, they have to dot every I and cross every T. They can't let a single moment go awry. They can't let anything slip past them, and that's Ed. A great long shot onto Juicy, and looking for more as well. The nade to come through, but Dino's shut out thanks to Ray. Ed looking for more, and just look at the confidence exuded by this man as he gets another one. And Knights suddenly find themselves in a 2 versus 2. Ed so close to finding another, but also in such a precarious position.
A well-placed nade would have been enough to take him out or force him out of that position and into the cross, but Sage misses the mark, and now ED can just sit tight in the corner. If he swings, he surely wins the fight. If he does, it'd be a 1 versus 2 for the Knights, and we'd go to OT, you would assume. So it's really going to come down to ED once again.
Oh! ED makes this a 1v2 for Josh. How many times have we seen him in this position? He has to find Ed. It's a 1v1 once again. Spirited needs to clutch it like he's done it before. And Josh needs to break this curse. Spirited takes us to OT. 6 rounds in a row for 7thHeaven.
12 defensive round wins in a row. 7thHeaven have pulled off the minor miracle of taking this one all the way to overtime. In doing so, they've earned at least 1 point in this match. Can you believe it? Insane. And the parallels between that round and round number 7, where Josh fails the clutch against Spirited, the newest player in this roster, or the replacement in this roster. Absolutely wild.
And on top of all of that, Knights have attack in overtime. That means if the trend continues that has happened for the last 12 rounds in a row, guys, of defense winning, well, it's just going to be 8-7 for 7thHeaven. But you know what, guys? I don't even know if that's going to happen. 7thHeaven have every ounce of momentum they need to take this 8-6 with a complete 8-round reverse sweep over the Giants. All they've got to do is pull the trigger. Also, the only kill Spirited has had so far, 3 of them, were in the 1v2 that he won, and then in the 1v1 that he won.
Clutch master.
It's all he's doing for the team. In terms of the fragging department, anyway, don't discount, you know, his utility and call-outs and stuff, but like literally all he has done for frags is clutch.
5 seconds to go.
Insane. I swear Maddox said in the last game it was one of the craziest matches of Siege he's ever watched. Well, look,
This is it. This is
7th Heaven are doing a great job in contesting that, if not already surpassing it. And talking about wild things, Sage bringing Ying to the board in this round. I believe it was a 6 pick, and that could be the shake-up that the Knights need in this round. Maybe that will be enough to dislodge the defense and facilitate some aggression.
It's got to be. At this point, you've got to just chuck everything you've got into a basket and shake it. Mix things up. Don't keep banging your head against the wall that you've been doing for 6 rounds in a row. Knights have finally tried to break away from that team composition that they've run the same 5-ops almost every round, occasionally switching the Buck and the Sledge around. But this time, it is that Ying. Pika has been a thorn in their side the whole time, and he plays safe, shoots a drone and gets back to site. 7th Heaven started off this game playing very poorly, and they have certainly turned that around. They are not taking any unnecessary risks.
I said earlier, there's a weird aura around this Playday, and it's only strengthening what will be the final verse in what has been a crazy tale so far. The Knights, yet to win an attack. This is critical. If they lose this, 7th Heaven find themselves on match point and things start to look extremely grim. What will they do this round to shake things up? Keep in mind, again, that Ying's on the board, but how will they facilitate it? Maybe Sage would out over towards the stairs, clear pillar, maybe even head in towards blue. But either way, they need to get going soon.
Juicy pushing from the rear stairs. The Ying in tow. May well be that this is the point Sage decides to mount his attack. Not sure as of yet. Ed, once again, taking out these drones. Juicy really desperate to find this. No nades remaining. And here comes the Candelas. Down through electrical. Josh finds the opening. Hayward as well! The Knights might just break the curse! Spirited finds another pick. Pika goes down! Knights break the curse! It may have taken 7 attacks, but they finally get it done. And we have, once again, Knights match points.
They forced chaos in that round, and they were the benefactors. The Knights with match point. They can continue the trend of this being incredibly defender-sided. You would expect that they would close this one out, but the Knights can get a win on the attack in OT. Why couldn't 7th Heaven? Surely this match deserves every single round, Dev.
I feel like at this point there are just going to be so many people rooting for 7th Heaven for that monstrous comeback. And guess who on the verge of defeat once again, staring down match point, 6 pick onto the Ying, just like their opponents did.
Give them a taste of their own medicine, it would seem. And I gotta say, I feel like we didn't get to see necessarily the direct impact in the last round from Sage's Candelas, but it did, I guess, play into the chaos of that aggressive execute. And 7th Heaven, whether it was due to those Candelas or not, did look a little bit disorientated and were caught off guard from the attack. So if ED can have a similar impact in this round, then hey, who knows?
10 seconds left.
Well, Knights' defenses were incredibly
5 seconds
solid,
remaining.
honestly. Like, we were 100% convinced this was going to be a 7-0 after we saw how strong Knights were on defense. But 7th Heaven since then have had some rejuvenation. The fact that they managed to mount that incredible comeback is surely some gas in the tank and some fire ready to just bring everything that they've got and throw it at the Knights. Surely that's what's going to happen here. I mean, surely this is not settled right here.
Peculiar position being held here from Dino. He's prone, watching the rappel on bedroom. And the last time I highlighted him, he wasn't doing amazing in the stat department, and since then it hasn't really improved for him, going 7-11. Again, not terrible, but in the context of a match this tight, you really want your top fraggers delivering. Maybe this is the round he goes big when his team needs it. Meanwhile, 7thHeaven, again, Maverick being brought for big tower. Josh holding those angles, holding firm inside of pit. Maybe if he gets cheeky and swings wide, he could find one, but it's risky with Ray holding down the fort.
That Maverick torch pattern is my facial expression right now watching this game. The two eyes and a very wide eyes and a very confused mouth. And 7thHeaven, yeah, like you said, they have that at control, at least partially. Uncontested now from Knights, but Dino still having presence in Trophy. It's going to come down to what happens in this latter half of the round. The pressure is on for 7thH. They haven't had a single attack win so far. They have this Ying, that ace up their sleeve.
That timer ticks down. We saw it in the first half of regulation, where 7thHeaven's time management was not the best. They were forced into late round executes and the Knights dominated. Will it be the same here again? In arguably an even more critical round. Did see Hayward over towards Freezer stairs. If Pika doesn't drone him out, this could be huge, but he does spot him.
He protects
Acts like he doesn't. Maybe Hayward thinks he hasn't been droned.
Oh, it goes past again and Hayward backs off. But Hayward is separated from the rest and can't necessarily help. Pika has got his number, looking for this pick. This may well be the opening engagement. Spirit finds one. Hayward jumps back and takes down the top fragger. Dino steps up when we needed him most. Hayward as well. This could be the match point that Knights have been desperate for. And after the nightmare comes victory for the Knights in an 8-6 monster of a game. They lock it out.
Oh, they left it to the 11th hour, but the Knights, they finally pulled through. They'll be disappointed that they didn't close it out in regulation, but at least they didn't let the nerves get to them in the end, and they closed things out for an overtime win.
What an absolute... There's so many words I want to be saying right now. They're not safe for broadcast, guys. That was a something storm of a game, and probably one of the most unique matches I have ever seen of Rainbow Six Siege. And the Knights are thanking every deity that they may or may not worship that they got that across the line, because if not, it would have been one of the most embarrassing defeats we have ever seen. The reverse sweep was certainly starting to climb up the hill there for 7thHeaven, but at the final hurdle, they did stumble. That overtime went the way of Knights. Massive credit to the immense mental fortitude they must have had to get back on that horse after being slapped down so many times.
Yeah, 100%. After losing 6 rounds straight, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it would be to maintain that mental. You've gone from the highest of highs to being just struck down to reality and staring down the barrel of genuinely losing the match. But the Knights, I think tonight they've proved that they are one of the better teams in the league. Despite it being a rocky finish, they still did get the win, and that is the most important thing.
Knights definitely proved something. I'm not sure what it was, and I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to toss it over to Xenox and Rob and Raven. I think that they have something to say.
Yes, well, I would certainly hope so. They get paid to do that, boys. Not even close in the end. Knights just really just giving 7thHeaven at least a point. They felt bad. They were up 6-0 Raven, and they decided, hey, look, we're going to get first place anyway with 2. Let's just give them 1.
I don't know whether I'd say they let it happen or they felt bad, but look, man, I am honestly stunned. That was just such a comeback from 7thHeaven, and what an interesting little Oregon of no attack wins in regulation. The only attack win was in OT, which the Knights obviously got because that got them the win. But look, I'm amazed. 7thHeaven did a great job to come back. Good mental fortitude. Yeah, pretty speechless, honestly.
You sweating there, Xenox?
No, mate, I'm not.
You sweating, mate? I think there's a Discord full of people who would say otherwise.
You gonna say anything? Are you gonna say anything? Come on.
Oh, I don't need to. It sums it all up. You and Knights wrapped up in one with a bow on top. My goodness, 7th Heaven. I don't know how they managed to pull that out of somewhere that's dark. That is unbelievable. The fact that they were even to make it that close. And I think Guz said it. The sub, Spirited, the only 3 kills he had by OT were 1vx clutches. Like, how does that happen?
I don't know, man. I don't actually know, especially the first clutch was at 6-0 as well. It could have been all done at 7. Let's, though, maybe get some insight. We got an interview with Dino from Knights. Look, all I'm just going to ask is what happened? What the hell happened?
Look, we wanted the viewers to be able to farm some alpha packs. My heart was racing. It was an emotional roller coaster. We went from 6-0 and then we did some mistakes on attack. 7th Heaven played really well on defense, and thank God we had the Ying play on attack to win that one attack round, and it just brought us over the edge.
Talk us a little bit more through that, Dino. You've just gone 6-0 and then lost 6 rounds in a row to go to OT. You have to start attack. You haven't won an attack the whole night. Tell us how that was for the team preparing for round 13. Like, what did you guys talk through to get ready for that round?
Every single round that they played below, we always were losing someone at the back really early. So we were always on the back foot every single time. So we said, all right, look, don't pick them at the back. We'll join front. We'll take front. We'll take back later on as a full team, not 1 or 2 of us. We said if we don't give them the early pick, we should win the round, just because most of the times it was a 2v1 at the end and we just lost it, or we just did some mistakes here and there. We were confident the whole game, even though they were winning rounds, just because as a team, these don't really like scare us or give us nerves. We've been here so many times. We just stay calm, collected, and we just tried to fix the mistakes every single time. And thank God we bring the Ying on that last round of attack.
So, just very quickly, you call a timeout at 6-3. What are you guys even talking about in that instance? Because this is one of the first times we're kind of seeing it in leagues, online leagues, that is, that timeout. So what are you feeling like when it's 6-3? What are you talking about?
So when we called the timeout, it was because of the guy in small tower. We did a big mistake. We should have just cleared his utility and naded him, but instead we tried to peek him and just take unnecessary picks, which was just wrong. So in that halftime we said, if we go back to that, let's just make sure we clear him properly, which we ended up clearing him properly the next time, but then we screwed up on trying to clear showers, which was unfortunate. So yeah, every single time there was some more issues we had to come up, but I don't know, at the end we take the win.
Dino, at 6-0, I turned my ring lights back on. I was getting ready to come on. I was like, what am I going to say in the interview? I was going to mention something along the lines of, oh, you guys are going to be first place. You're the best team in APAC South. Does it feel like that? I might just ask it anyway. Do you feel like the best team in APAC South? Because you are still technically first now by yourselves, 10 points. What's the thoughts now? Do you consider yourselves the best?
Look, we have to come in, I guess. We honestly feel like we're the best. Right now, Elevate are very close to us. Elevate's a very good team. I think that's just going to be the hardest match for us this season. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, if we can take that win, then we should be looking good to take first place.
Yeah, that's going to be Playday 7. Wow, look at that. The big matchup at the end of the regular season. Well, look, you got there in the end. 2 points is better than no points. It's better than 1 point. You take it. Probably should have been 3. I think we can all agree there, but it's still top spot. 10 points, first team to double digits. You're having a good season. Final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I just wanted to thank all the fans today. I want to thank all the casters and Pittsburgh Knights.
Awesome. Thank you very much, mate, and best of luck in your upcoming games.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Well, probably should have been 3 points, fellas, but 2 points will do. It's the second time that Knights have had to accept the 2 points after their last play day against Order, where that also went to overtime. They are undefeated still, though. There's no one in the loss column at all, Raven. And arguably, I guess because of that and because of other matches that have taken place, you have to regard them as the best team in APAC South at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. It's just a matter of...
At the moment.
They do have some other teams that they will have to prove themselves against, such as Elevate. But look, they've been one of the, I guess you could say, more consistent teams. Certainly if they had won that in regulation, it would have been much easier to say. But regardless, they feel like they are rightfully in their place in the standings. So it's just a matter of that, I guess, final test, if you want to call it that, against Elevate.
Yeah, and I'd probably say, just to touch on what we talk about a lot, which is consistency. So I can't say it with a straight face, but they are... All right, hang on, compose yourself. They are technically the most consistent team right now, regardless of what's happened against Order with them last week, and now again with 7thHeaven. I mean, you actually can't take it away from them. In one of, I would say, in their biggest games of their careers, their Siege careers, they are being consistent. And I think that that's all that we take away from this, regardless of a 6-0 comeback. That is insane.
Yeah.
As we sort of wind down Playdate 4, let's recap the results from tonight, which, well, these results, you just got to breathe in a little bit here and take it all in. Chiefs, of course, former Elevate, big win over Wildcard in what was actually quite convincing, and for all of the matches today was the one that really didn't surprise us at all. Then the surprises started to take place. Order upsetting Elevate, Raven, causing them to have their first loss of the season.
Yeah, that was actually such a huge game. It was back and forth the entire time, but Order stepping it up, and Elevate, yeah, look, I reckon they would have been surprised to take the L. A lot of us were surprised they took the L. But I think a great story out of that is just Order looked like they were in such good form. And as Specker said in the interview, like, he was having a particularly off game, which isn't like him. So if they were firing on all cylinders, they could definitely be, a real contender for, the top 3 kind of positions.
And I mean, I can't believe that QC. I will say QC it wasn't a shock performance by any means, but I'm still incredibly happy with how they performed, and we can definitely start to ask questions around Giants' performance in APAC South. Regardless, they came into this batting their chests, and unfortunately they're just not getting it across the line when it's needed. That's 2 straight losses at that, not even in overtime. So some big points that are going missing from Giants, whereas 7thHeaven, they are really putting their money's worth in this league. And I think this goes to show, Xenox, I'm sure you'll back me up here, but there is no easy game in APAC South.
No, there's not. There really is not an easy game in APAC South, especially when you consider the fight back we saw from 7thHeaven in that last matchup just prior. Let's go and have a look at the predictions and how they played out. It started off with myself and Guz at the top of the prediction standings, and hey, we end the night and we're still on top of the standings. Last place, Dev Manic. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. Rob, do you want to sort of take us through your losses here again?
Look, I'll say this. 7thHeaven were making one person sweat in particular, and it wasn't me. That's all I'm going to say. It was a incredibly close match. I'll put my hand up and say the second we watched the first 2 rounds of that 7thHeaven matchup, I was in tears because it did look like it was going to be a 7-0 victory to Knights, and as if there was any doubt, I do foresee that was a bit of a wonky judgment call, but hey, my big 7 head came back with Order, so you win some, you lose some.
Raven?
Sure, you do win some, you lose some. Look, no, I'm pretty happy with how my night went. 3 from 4. I feel like we could totally be forgiven for match number 2 being pretty difficult to predict. Of course, Manic did get a big brain on that one, but no, look, I think this league is really fun to do predictions for, because trying to theory craft all the different scenarios, it's really tough. Some of these teams actually match up really well against each other. I feel like that's a big indicator with Order and Elevate. It's just Order's playstyle matches up so well against Elevate, and even Q-Confirm, you could argue their playstyle probably just matched up really well against Giants. So it's a fun exercise going through some of these predictions.
Let's go and have a look at the standings now. I'm more than happy to just slowly go through this. I mean, we got all the time in the world, right? Chat. The longer that this stream stays live, the more packs, the more percentage. Let's look at the standings. It's Knights in first place, solo first place. No ties here, 10 points. First team to double digit. Just below them, of course, Elevate. And I mean, it's pretty clear, Rob. Absolutely the top two. And then you've got yourself a logjam.
Yeah, I definitely feel as though Knights and Elevate have fully shown us that they are the two best teams in APAC South. To bring it down to a more serious note, they've really been showing up in the games that mattered, and I think that, Elevate, they're on the heels of Knights now, which is surprising to see Knights at the very top. But as we taper down, this is a dogfight. This is going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be very awkward in Playday 7, because I actually foresee that's where a lot of the big plays for playoffs will come about.
It's going to be pretty hectic, honestly. Just seeing, third place to seventh in particular, it's 6 and then 5, 5, 5, 5. Like, that just goes so many different ways leading into playoffs, and it's so hard to call because, like, for example, Chiefs, they had a pretty big win against Wildcard. They've had a relatively decent season so far in APAC South. A little bit sketchy, but getting there. They've still got some opponents ahead. I think they've still got Elevate to play this Thursday. I believe they've got Q-Confirm still to play as well. So, opportunity there for them to jump way ahead, for example.
Let's have a look at the schedule now. Let's bring that one up. Yeah, let's continue to extend things. I'm sure there's some guy out there right now on like 99%. He's like, just keep going. We've got a little bit more to go before we close off. Don't worry. First match for next Playday number 5. Can you believe it? Of 7. We're getting right down to the busy sections. And of course, it's going to be, well, a bit of a rivalry classic between Knights and Wildcard, but as we saw in OCN the other night, Raven, you kind of expect Knights to be able to get this one done surely, and this time maybe not allowed to go to OT.
I mean, you would expect that, but I guess we have also started to come to expect that you never quite know what's going to happen in APAC South on the night. I still think it should be a really exciting game because there's a rich history and rivalry between these two teams. And I feel like, it really could just come down to Wildcard might dig deep and summon something special. Maybe Vinny or Imarin just go nuclear and just have a massive game. could go either way,
Are you saying it's on the fence? It's on a knife's edge there, Raven. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that, Medic. Yeah.
Oh my God. Rob, next one. Chiefs, Elevate. Yeah. That's a big one.
Oh, that's the big one for me. It's the grudge match for Chiefs that have just been picked up from their Elevate roster, and Elevate picking up, of course, the ex-Xavier roster. This is the big one for me. This is the one that will probably bring the most joy. I'm sure there'll be a bit of banter out the back on the back end of production for both of those teams, but I really see that Chiefs they've been on the rise in 2021, and I think that this is the hurdle. This is the mantelpiece for them. If they can take Elevate in this series, it will just be absolutely massive for their entire year, let alone their stage.
The last 2 games of Playday 5, Order versus QC, which should be a really good matchup to maybe even determine the winner of that should secure themselves a spot in the top half. And then 7thHeaven, well, I mean, talk about a rebound game having to go up against the Giants. That's going to be a tricky one. Well, we are getting to the end of the show here for Playday 4. APAC South will go around the virtual desk one final time. Final thoughts, final opinions. I'll go with you, Raven, first. You're looking quite happy.
Look, I am happy. I love when leagues just feel like they're so close. I still feel like, even though Knights are out in front, there's just such competition from first all the way through to 8th. But as we just went through with the standings, you see 2nd to 7th are all within a point of each other. I love that. I love knowing that coming to the end of the season, all these matches can have such a heavy weight in terms of who actually makes playoffs and who doesn't. So as we get closer to the end of the stage, these playdays just get more and more exciting.
Yeah, it's very much, we've said it multiple times tonight, and if you don't believe it, it's anyone's game. In APAC South, it is quite literally anyone's opportunity. There are no easy games regardless. And the final thing I will leave it on is you are so lucky, Xenox. You are so lucky.
No luck, buddy. No luck at all. Knights had it in the bag the whole way. Well, that's Playday 4 for APAC South in the books. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an incredible night of Siege action. And what you know that means Playday 5 should be just as good. So on Thursday or in about 2 days' time, we will be back for Playday 5. It's going to be a big week of Siege.